Thanks for joining us here on Indivisible. I'm your host, John Stubbins, and we are coming live from CPAC 2023. I've got my good friend and amazing journalist, John Solomon, on the show. Welcome, John.
Great
good
to
to
be
see you,
with
brother.
you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We just had John on the show about a week ago, covering a lot of ground. And boy, did we cover a lot.
We did.
But John's got breaking news, and I want to get straight to it. John, let us know what's going on.
Yeah, listen, yesterday the Government Accountability Office, which is the nonpartisan investigative arm of Congress, said they had reviewed all the intelligence that had come into 10 law enforcement agencies, 10 federal law enforcement agencies. All of them had intelligence that there was going to be attacked on January 6th. None of them acted appropriately to prepare the Capitol for zero. This includes the FBI, the Park Police, the Capitol Police, Homeland Security Department, every major alphabet soup law enforcement agency you think of. They had specific intelligence that there was going to be an attack. And when I say specific, I mean there were people talking about penetrating the tunnels to confront lawmakers. There were people talking about going into the chamber. There were people talking about breaking windows, bringing guns. All of that was coming in starting on December 20th, so 3.5 weeks before the attack.
Wow.
Nobody reacted. It's 9/11, obviously a much different type of attack, but the intelligence values are very similar to what happened on 9/11.
That is crazy. You know, I'll tell you what's amazing, because I've been working with Peter Tickton, one of President Trump's attorneys, and we fed him a lot of information, including a lot of video, just in the last year on this January 6th thing. What's amazing, a lot of people don't even know this, and we came out with this report. On January 5th, there was a meeting with these Oath Keepers groups with law enforcement. And everybody came together in a peaceful way, making sure they went out of their way so that they could let everybody know this isn't going to get out of control. There isn't going to be any chaos. And boom, here we go. John's got the breaking news, and this is what we're dealing with. What's next? What do you foresee?
Well, listen, I think the Republicans have to follow through on what they said. So we did a lot of reporting last year at Just the News. We got about a half dozen Capitol Police whistleblowers to come forward. They gave us documents. GAO has authenticated those documents. It's in the public now. Republicans have to go in and address the thing that Chief Son said to us. So Chief Son was the police chief the day the attack occurred. His own people didn't tell him the intelligence. That's an amazing thing.
That's crazy.
You're the chief, your people don't tell you. He said two things to me. One, this was a preventable attack. It should matter to all of us. And two, the Capitol is no safer today than it was on January 5th, 2021. Congress has to go in. It's not about the politics anymore. It's not about settling scores. It's about making sure the home of Congress is safe from a future attack. We're not in that posture to protect it right now. That's what I hear from every person.
And here's the other question. How much of that responsibility falls on Nancy Pelosi's shoulders?
Very good question. So about a month and a half ago, we were able to get documents showing that Nancy Pelosi's staff actually edited the security plan that went into effect on January 6th, the inadequate security plan. It was Nancy Pelosi's staff that said we don't want the National Guard because it would be an eyesore. It would be bad optics. Optics is not a security term. It's a political term.
Oh, my gosh. Look,
Just as a question.
Yes.
Who did they say was going to do the attack?
They had direct intelligence about Proud Boys. Then they had direct intelligence about very specific individuals. Now, the names are redacted, so we don't know who they are, but I bet you we'll be able to match them up to current defendants. That means the very people that are in trouble now were on the radar of law enforcement before the attack happened. That is a massive failure of intelligence and security.
Absolutely.
It's not in dispute anymore.
Absolutely.
Well, what about the people who went there just addressing their constitutional right to redress their government? They're fine, right?
Peaceful protest has always been fine. If you moved into the building, you go into a different territory.
Yeah.
You hit an officer, you've committed a crime. We
Right.
can't treat them any different than the people that committed the crimes in 2020 summer during the Black Lives Matter. But right now, the commensurate the punishments far exceed what we normally see people get for these type of crimes.
That's right.
We had a whistleblower not too long ago, Brian Friend. He left the FBI over the fact that he thought that civil liberties were being violated. He said something. I sat in the meetings for the January 6th investigations. The process was designed to be the punishment. If you were guilty or innocent, the process was going to punish you anyway. That's a powerful thing to hear from an FBI man.
Oh, yeah. And you know, it's very interesting. John, you brought up the riots, 550 days of riots. Nobody's been held accountable.
No.
From BLM, from Antifa. And it just opens up this wound every time. And then you look at this CRT, this 1619 project, it just keeps reopening that same wound because people aren't being held accountable. And then over here, January 6th, they're getting excoriated. It's really driving people nuts out there.
It is.
And I get these questions constantly.
You do. No, listen, that's the big question. Have we created a dual system of justice? I think to a person now, anyone I talk to says, yes, we have. Now the question is, how do we reverse it? How do we get back to
How do we stop it?
Yeah, and I think the people that are on the Judiciary Committee, they have an obligation not just to expose things, but to get a solution in place, whatever that solution is. Yesterday I was with Kimberly Guilfoyle on her show, and along with Matt Whitaker, former acting attorney general.
Yes.
And one of the things we talked about, and I think it's a very important thing, people say, how did the FBI go from being very law enforcement oriented to being very political? The last 3 FBI directors did not come out of the FBI. You know where they came from? The political side of the Justice Department.
Good point.
Bob Mueller, James Comey, Chris Wray. If you don't want politics in the FBI, don't put people at the top of it whose background comes from politics.
That's right. Yeah, go. Why not search in the FBI for your leadership in the hierarchy, right?
A lot of talented people in that.
A lot of talented folks. Look, and that these are guys, women and men, that know their job very well. And the regular FBI, there's a lot of great people there.
It's true.
This leadership, it's terrible. It's terrible, and it sets a black eye in all of America because they don't know what to do. They don't know if they can trust law enforcement. And then you look even down to the regular. I talked to an officer yesterday, just a normal officer, Prince George's County here in Maryland. And he said, it's really hard for us now because nobody trusts us. No matter what we do, we're wrong. If we have to shoot somebody, we're in the wrong. It's like, but here's the question. And I pose this question to all Americans. Anybody out there that says they hate law enforcement has a problem. Here's my question to you. Where did we become a country where resisting arrest and fighting with police officers is okay?
Yeah, that's right.
That's not American. We don't do that here, okay? And I guarantee you, a lot of these people that get shot, if they would just obey, just obey the orders, then they'd go home at night.
We lost a lot of respect. Listen, the police shooting problem is a two-sided problem, and we only talk about one side of it, but citizenry has an obligation too, and a lot of these are avoidable shootings if people just comply with police. I grew up in a police home. My father was in law enforcement 46 years. My brother was in for 29. They have seen the erosion of public respect, and that ends up creating a tinder fire every day that's ready to be lit up. It's very simple to roll this back in, but community leaders have to start. They have to set the tone. Hey, work with our police. They want to work with you. We get back to that, we solve a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Folks, as you know, this is the show where we put God, family, and country first. We will always tell you the truth. The great John Solomon, we're thrilled to have him, honored to have him. Thank you again, John.
Great honor to be with you.
Thanks for the update, too.
Good luck on your show. I love it.
God bless you, brother.
You too, sir.
You guys, we do have the MyPillow 2.0 or 2.0, MyPillow 2.0, the best pillow in 20 years. We've improved on the best sleep ever, and use that promo code Indivisible. Indivisible.
Yes, sir.
And if you use that, it's a buy one, get one free.
Thanks for joining us on Indivisible. I'm your host, John Stubbins, and I'm here with Chris Castelli. He is running for Congress for the second time in North Carolina District 6.
Yes, sir.
Chris, what's going on down there? By the way, I was just talking to a young lady. I know Jim Womack down there, and I know Jim because I'm involved heavily with election integrity.
Right.
I'm assuming you're involved in that down there too.
Keeping an eye on it.
And God bless your heart for what you're doing, and thank you for your service.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
But I want to hear, what's everybody talking about down there? What is it that the North Carolinians want?
Well, look, they want lower taxes. They want safe streets. They want lower crime rates.
Are they voting for BLM?
They want a secure border. They want to keep wokeness out of our school systems. They want what I believe mainstream America that just voted for the Republican trickle, not wave, wants. And, they've got a tough road to hoe because we're going to be going through redistricting again here. We seem to redistrict a lot in North Carolina.
Who's in charge of that?
So the state legislature draws up the maps. The Democrat-leaning state Supreme Court threw the last two maps out, and the current map from this last election cycle was an interim congressional map that was court-ordered by a special master of the court. And so the state legislature, which was Republican, drew up what would be a 10-4 or a 9-5 Republican-leaning map based on the history of the state.
It's absurd. Listen, I'm gonna tell you why. I just got done talking to my friend John Cummings down in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
The legislature down there picks the judges.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, we've got to stop this madness. This is not the way the United States was built. It's just not. Okay? What we're doing, North Carolina, South Carolina, these woke cities, they've developed all these different scams and schemes. They call it redistricting. It's always something, but it's every single election cycle.
Yep.
And we don't learn from it.
No. Now, for the first time in our history in North Carolina, we are a 7-7 true purple state. We lost 2 congressional seats in the state. We were fortunate to win the United States Senate and Ted Budd's seat.
Right.
But more importantly, almost more importantly, we won.
Mine's lost.
We in our leaning Republican-leaning district. So that was a referendum on.
That's crazy.
On a few things, but
I like Bo, by the way.
Yeah. For the first time, we're a 7-7 in the state of North Carolina, and we need to win those seats back. I mean, the party should be embarrassed by our performance, but more importantly, we won the state Supreme Court. So whatever the state legislature puts forward as far as the breakout of the maps, when the Democrats sue, and we know they will, it should be upheld by the Republican-leaning state Supreme Court.
Okay.
So that was important.
That is important. Of course it is.
We put a lot of effort into the judicial races for the first time. And now we should get universal voter ID out of it. We should get an accurate representation of the people on the congressional maps. And I think the situation is primed to win back some House seats.
Okay. Real quick. First of all, what is your website?
Castelli, that's Castelli, 4, the number 4, NC.
Okay. Make sure you go to Chris's website. Get involved, North Carolina. Okay, it's your opportunity to make a difference.
It is.
And you have a say, but you've got to stand. Stand for something. Do something. Get off your couch. Make a difference. Because if you don't, I don't want to hear you complain.
That's it.
The time is now. And Chris will tell you that.
That's right.
And we've got to do something. This is across the country. I want to thank you for joining us, Chris. We'll do everything that we can.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
And we'd like to have you back.
I'll be back. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thanks, John.
The Isaac Law Firm, protecting men in family court.
Indivisible with John Stubbins is proud to support my friends Jim and Angela Holland and Set Apart Farms.
Faith-led and family-driven, we're doing things a better way for veterans and their families. For all the ways to get involved, go to setapartfarms.org.
And now we have some important breaking news. Are you tired of the control big tech has over your digital life? It seems like there's no end to big tech's dominance. Well, there is a company called Liberation, and their mission is to liberate your digital world.
Thanks for joining us here on Indivisible. I'm your host, John Stubbins. We're coming to you live from CPAC. My guest today is Nick Giordano. This is the show where we put God, family, and country first, and we will always tell you the truth. Nick, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing, man?
Thank you for having me on, John.
Good to see you. Get in from New York, man. How's it going?
It's good. It wasn't a bad ride down.
Okay.
Got to drive down to D.C., check it out, CPAC 2023.
Look, I read your op-ed, man. Outstanding.
Thank you.
We want to talk about that right now. Let's get right to it. Campus reform. Tell us all about it.
Absolutely. So I became a Campus Reform Higher Education Fellow. They saw the problem going on college campuses, so they decided to bring in professors. It used to be a student organization. Now they want to bring aboard professors to talk about the madness that we're seeing, this diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice push. that's all designed to reframe America, to remake America into something that it never was.
Right.
And it's really concerning when you look at how they're putting this in degree requirements for every single major that exists out there, whether it's engineering, political science, biology.
Woke-centered everything.
Absolutely. But it's toxic. It's a toxic poison. Where all it does is it denigrates the American identity, it pushes us into groups, and then pits those groups against each other.
Right. Yeah, well, look at what we talked about this constantly. CRT, 1619 project. Look what they've done with our military. They're divide and conquer, right? Through all these different strategies, and BLM, I tell you what's crazy. This really bothers me. It hasn't been pronounced enough in the media that BLM ripped off the American people.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's been hidden. Now, Candace Owens, God bless her heart, she did a lot to try to expose that, even going to Patrice Cullor's house, right? And you have that video? It's like, where did all this money go? Well, the money went to these mansions for the upper echelon leadership.
Isn't it amazing how they use capitalism to get rich, and then they sit there and bash capitalism all day long?
Yeah, they say I hate capitalism, and at the same time, they're putting themselves in mansions just like all these other idiots. It just drives me nuts, Nick.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. But the real problem is that when you look at the education system and what's been done, remember, the students that go through a K through 12 system, college, and then, higher education, sooner or later, they're going to be the policymakers.
That's right.
And if they don't know anything about America, if they've been told that America is this horrible, evil place, that's why they want to rebuild and destroy the institution.
Yes.
It really is something that we should be concerned about.
And by the way, everybody, if you don't know Nick Giordano, he is a professor, okay? So he goes on Tucker Carlson all the time. He comes on my show periodically, but everybody knows what happened with us with our censorship, but thank God we're back. We're thrilled to be back after this long hiatus, and I'll tell you, Nick knows his stuff, and he's in the classroom with these kids, so he knows what he's talking about. He knows what's out there, and I got to tell you something. It's valuable. It's important. It's imperative that we have people like Nick Giordano out there counterbalancing this argument, this nonsensical argument of Marxism.
Well, the amazing part is I find my students are actually more open-minded than adults are.
Right.
Than the grown adults.
That's a great, that makes me think of something. What do the kids say? What do they say about this nonsense? How do they view BLM and Antifa and all this crap?
Well, it's funny because students will come to me, and it doesn't matter. I teach at a community college, so there's a large minority population that comes into the classrooms and whatnot, and they just find it bizarre, right? They look at it like diversity. Well, look around. We're pretty diverse.
I'd say so.
They look at it. Why are we treating this upcoming generation, which is the most open and tolerant generation? We have more multi-ethnic, multiracial families than ever before. Why are you treating us as if we're either the biggest racist to exist or the most oppressed class to exist?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And then some of them find it insulting that you say that just because of the color of skin or gender that you are, that you can't perform at a level of your counterparts, so we're going to dumb things down for you.
Sure.
And they find that insulting.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. You think about how far we've come.
Absolutely.
Okay, now Obama, Biden, Clinton, they've set us back years. But out in society, you can't square with me how some guy's making $50 million a year to play basketball in the NBA or to be a running back in the NFL or whatever, and I'm not making $50 million a year, okay? Let's talk about the affirmative action piece of this. Affirmative action has been around forever, right? I'll never forget, I use this example. It's real simple. When I was a kid, we had a neighbor who was taking the fireman's test, and he scored high, like a 95. He didn't get the job because of affirmative action. A black man had scored like a 69, got the job over him because of affirmative action. Where's the affirmative action in reverse?
Well, the Supreme Court's going to knock down the affirmative action.
They've got to.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. And listen, we used to be a society of self-reliance, merit, personal responsibility. What they've done is try to move us away from that. where everything is based on identity and groups, and that's dangerous. No society survives it. And all you have to do is look at Afghanistan and Libya and countries that are tribal to see that if we let them break us down into a tribal society, it's not going to work.
That's right. That's right. Look, brother, we got to keep fighting.
Absolutely.
And I know you're going to stay in the fight. Nick Giordano, everybody. Look, we'll have him on our regular show when we're not back at CPAC, which I don't know if we'll be in Orlando next year or back here next year. It's been kind of a wild affair. But make sure that you follow Nick Giordano. He's got a great show, The Past Report. Where can they find you, by the way, Nick?
Go to PASreport.com.
Okay.
PASreport.com or campusreform.org.
Yeah, and make sure you follow Nick because he's one of the cutting-edge guys out there that's in charge of your kids.
Yeah.
Okay? And I want to know what Nick's thinking, what his classroom's saying, and I want to get that information constantly. So we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Thanks again for joining us here on Indivisible.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Many of you know me as a pediatric neurosurgeon. Some know me as the 17th Secretary of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Some of you know me presently as the founder and chairman of the American Cornerstone Institute. But I hope you all know me as a patriot. Well, I got involved with Old Glory Bank because I immediately recognized what an important institution it would be in our country. The concept of a bank that is consistent with the values that created our nation, and quite frankly, with the values of most people in this country, people who, have become discouraged and don't trust our institutions. Words Old Glory represent our flag. Our flag is such an important symbol. Each of the colors means something special. The red, the white, the blue, the stripes, the stars. Talk about the many people who've sacrificed so much to provide the freedom and opportunity that we have in this country. America needs a place like Old Glory Bank because people need to have an institution that they can trust in. And I think Old Glory can be one of the factors that will help to restore that trust. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that happens.
Welcome to Indivisible. I'm your host, John Stubbins. We're here live at CPAC 2023, and I'm here with Dr. Simone Gold. We're going to talk about health and Marxism and the ties, but let's also talk about Gold Care, which is Dr. Gold's new adventure, which is going to be really exciting for all you patriots out there. By the way, this is the show we put God, family, and country first. We will always tell you the truth. Welcome to the show, Dr. Gold.
Thank you. It's so fun to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Tell us a little bit about Gold Care.
Right. So let's just make sure your audience knows who I am. So I'm the founder of America's Frontline Doctors, and we stood on the steps of the Supreme Court in the summer of 2020, and we said to you that lockdowns don't work, masks don't work, early treatment does work, and not to live in fear. That was the main thing, not to live in fear,
Sure.
right? They were capturing us by fear and getting us to give up our civil rights and our civil liberties just by making us afraid, right? So that's what we did the next couple of years. America's Frontline Doctors grew very large. We have more than 1 million supporters at this point. And we just kept bringing truth to the American people, and we were suing the people that were doing wrong, like the CDC and the NIH and the FDA, and we brought a lot of those lawsuits. And in doing that, we managed, I believe, to successfully avoid vaccine mandates in our nation. Right? By the way, over time, we have seen that the shots are bad for you. That I always knew would be revealed over time.
Sure.
But what I was most nervous about was that we would start instituting vaccine passports or QR codes, et cetera. I was living in California at the time, and we got to the point that you had to show papers to go into a restaurant.
It's insane.
We needed to make sure that didn't take hold. So that's the lawsuits we were in, and that took most of 2021.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much. It was very arduous, and I did it as a labor of love. I love America. But for the last year, I've been really working on bringing patients an alternative, because why did we allow our freedoms to be so abridged, right?
Right.
It was because of fear. People were afraid. They were going to their doctors, and the doctors were telling them that there was this lethal virus out there and there's nothing you can do, and therefore sit at home and wear a mask and all that. The doctors were actually misleading. The experts were misleading. The government was misleading. What we needed is a emphasis on the doctor-patient relationship, where you had an honorable doctor speaking ethically, honorably, and truthfully to a patient. And we've really lost that over this last generation.
Sure, and the other part of that is, outside the doctor's office, you get into the community, if you don't do what they say, you're a racist.
Yeah.
You're a hater. You're, anti-whatever, anti-woke. So all these labels, you can get demonetized, lose your job, lose your bank account. I mean, people are terrified
For
to
sure.
say anything.
The cancel culture is very alive and well, and it also affects doctors, right? Because doctors these days are employees. They're not small business owners like in my father's day. So the question is, how can we empower the average person to not fall into fear? Some people like you, like me, we don't go that direction anyway, but a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
A lot of people do. So I've launched something called goldcare.com. Goldcare.com, which is national telemedicine, where you will be paired with an ethical, honorable doctor who follows the Hippocratic Oath and works for you. Doesn't work for the insurance company, gives you unbiased advice. The same way, for example, if you go to a lawyer and you expect that the lawyer gives you unbiased advice because you are the client, that's exactly how goldcare.com operates.
That's so smart, Dr. Gold. When did this start? When did you guys launch
We
this?
literally just launched like last week.
Oh, wow.
It's all 50 states, national telemedicine.
Folks, listen to that. All 50 states, just launched. So you can get it on this thing now.
Right.
It's early. What's the website they can go to?
And you're right. So goldcare.com, and the people who come early are getting a better price. And it's built up exactly how I know medicine needs to be. We've taken so much pain and care to make sure that it can't be corrupted. Doctors will not earn any money except for the time they spend with you. So it's on us to pick the ethical, honorable, unbiased, righteous doctors. But beyond that, you don't have to worry your doctor's selling you a lab test or an x-ray that you don't need, or putting on a drug that you don't need, or selling you a supplement. They don't make any money on anything other than their time with you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and best of all, it's your choice as a free American.
That's right.
You can decide to check out the website
Exactly.
and make the decision for yourself.
Yes, and the other thing that we do so many things that are so different. One is we actually pair doctors with non-doctors. There's no competition. We're not trying to keep you in an illness model. The current system thrives on an illness model, keeping you sick, keeping you on 5 different prescription medications. We pair together traditional doctors like myself, allopathic, like emergency physician, for example, but we also bring in naturopath doctors and functional doctors and integrative doctors and dietitians and health coaches. Maybe you don't need someone as expensive as a doctor. If you're basically healthy and you don't have any ongoing medical problems, honestly, you don't really need a doctor. You might need a spiritual coach or a financial coach or a wellness coach, not a doctor.
Well, like you said, maybe a natural herb.
That's correct.
Something that, like you said, that's non. And I'm about to tell you right now, I'm a veteran. I'm a disabled veteran. I had some cylinders fall on my back, active duty military, and I don't complain about it. I live with pain every day. Even my audience doesn't know about it until now. I'm in my mouth, but I don't talk about it. I just live with the pain, and it's because I don't want to get addicted to pills. So I won't take pain pills. It's hard for me to take aspirin because I'm one of those guys. I hear all the stories from veterans about how they get hooked on these pills. I'm not that guy. I've got to keep my head about me and keep it on a swivel. So therefore I won't take pills.
Right.
Like right now, my back's killing me. What am I going to do? I might take some aspirin later tonight. That's it.
Right. So I appreciate you telling me your story. At the very least, you would like to have a consult with a doctor that you believe is not pushing pills, is not trying to get you on a pill mill kind of thing, but maybe good advice. Maybe there's something that can be done that's more natural. At the very least, we want to get access to that unbiased advice, and we saw the last 3 years that doctors were very compromised.
Well, folks, look, you heard this 1 week ago. This launched. You've got the opportunity to get it on this now. Just go to the website. One more time, Dr. Gold. Give them that website.
Goldcare.com. Gold, like 14 karat, GOLDCARE.com. Come home to goldcare.com.
That's right, goldcare.com. Dr. Simone Gold's an amazing patriot. Go check her out at the website. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Gold.
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure.
It's a pleasure.